The wife who demanded I earn her love. I was sitting in a lawyer's office, watching my wife's face turn white as she realized she just lost everything, when I understood that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people destroy themselves. What she'd said to me 6 months earlier, "You need to earn my affection," had just cost her $500,000 and the respect of everyone who knew her. But this story starts much earlier than that lawyer's office. It starts with the night my wife decided our 10-year marriage had become a competition. I came home from work expecting the usual routine. Drop my keys, loosen my tie, maybe grab a beer and figure out dinner. Instead, I found Amanda standing in our kitchen with her arms crossed, wearing an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, calculated, almost clinical. "We need to talk," she said. Those 4 words never meant anything good. I set my briefcase down and braced myself for whatever was coming. "You need to earn my affection." I stood there for a moment, trying to process what I just heard. "What?" "You heard me," she said, like she was explaining a simple household rule. "I don't feel the same way I used to. Something's missing. If you want my love, my attention, my intimacy, you have to earn it. If you're into honest stories about relationships, trust, and betrayal, hit that follow button. You won't want to miss the next one." The way she said it, so matter-of-fact, so confident, made my blood run cold. This wasn't a conversation about our relationship. This was an ultimatum delivered by someone who expected me to beg for scraps of her attention, like a dog performing tricks for treats. "Earn it how?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She shrugged. "That's up to you. Surprise me. Make me feel special. Show me why I should want to be with you." I looked at this woman I'd been married to for a decade. The woman I'd supported through grad school while working 2 jobs. The woman I'd taken care of when she was sick, celebrated with when she got promoted, built a life with brick by brick. And now she was telling me it wasn't enough, that I had to audition for the role of her husband. "Is that how you see me now?" I asked. "As someone who has to compete for your attention?" "I see you as someone who's gotten comfortable," she replied. "Someone who thinks he doesn't have to try anymore. Well, I'm telling you that you do." Something shifted in me at that moment. Not anger, that would come later. What I felt was clarity, crystal clear understanding of exactly what was happening. This wasn't about our marriage being in trouble. This was about power. She wanted to see me chase her, wanted to feel like she was some prize I had to fight for. She wanted control. I nodded slowly, as if I was considering her words. "Okay." She looked surprised, like she'd expected more resistance. "Okay? Sure, I'll think about it." But I wasn't thinking about how to win her back. I was thinking about how someone I'd loved and trusted for 10 years had just revealed herself to be someone I didn't recognize at all. The first few days, she tested the waters. Little comments designed to make me feel inadequate. "You used to be more spontaneous," she said over breakfast. "Remember when you used to plan surprises for me?" she mentioned while we watched TV. "I miss feeling excited about coming home," she sighed dramatically. I just nodded and continued whatever I was doing. No arguments, no defensive responses, no desperate attempts to prove her wrong. Just nothing. That's when she started escalating. She began staying out later with friends, always making sure to mention how much fun she was having without me. She'd get dressed up for these outings, spending extra time on her hair and makeup, then walk past me slowly to make sure I noticed. "Don't wait up," she'd say with a little smile. "I might be very late." She was waiting for me to react. To ask where she was going, who she was with, why she was dressed like she was going on a date instead of hanging out with her girlfriends. I just told her to have fun. The frustration in her eyes was beautiful. Then came the really obvious tests. She started talking about her coworkers more. How funny Dave from accounting was. How thoughtful Mike from marketing could be. How her boss always complimented her work and made her feel appreciated. "It's nice to feel valued," she'd say, watching my face carefully. I'd nod. "That's good." She'd wait for more, for jealousy, for insecurity, for some sign that her little games were working. When I gave her nothing, she'd try harder. One night she came home 2 hours later than usual, her hair slightly messed up, her lipstick gone. "Sorry I'm so late," she said, not sounding sorry at all. We went for drinks after the office party and I lost track of time. Sounds fun, I said without looking up from my book. She stood there for a full minute, clearly expecting me to notice her appearance, to ask questions, to give her the reaction she was fishing for. When I didn't, she actually huffed in frustration and stomped off to the bedroom. That's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her. See, while Amanda was playing games, I was playing chess. Every test she threw at me, every attempt to make me jealous or insecure, I documented. Not obviously, I wasn't taking notes or recording conversations, but I was paying attention, remembering dates, times, details, because I had a feeling this was going somewhere, and when it did, I wanted to be ready. The breakthrough came 3 weeks into her little experiment. I came home from work to find her in our bedroom, getting ready for another girls' night out. But this time was different. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Tight, short, expensive looking. The kind of dress you wear when you want to be noticed, by men who aren't your husband. Going somewhere special? I asked casually. Just meeting the girls for dinner, she said. But she couldn't meet my eyes. I nodded. Have fun. But this time I followed her. I know how that sounds. But something about her behavior that night felt different. More secretive, more deliberate. And after weeks of her games, I needed to know what I was really dealing with. The restaurant she went to wasn't the kind of place you go with girlfriends for a casual dinner. It was upscale, romantic, the kind of place you take someone you want to impress. And she wasn't meeting her girlfriends. She was meeting David Peterson, a guy I knew from her office Christmas parties, married, successful, the kind of smooth-talking charmer who probably made Amanda feel like she was missing out on something. I watched from the bar as they shared an intimate dinner, watched him reach across the table to touch her hand, watched her laugh at his jokes, lean in when he spoke, play with her hair the way she used to when we were dating. I watched my wife of 10 years act like a woman who was very much available. But here's the thing, I wasn't devastated. I wasn't even angry. I was relieved, because now I knew exactly what her little game was really about. This wasn't about me not trying hard enough or our marriage getting stale. This was about her wanting to cheat while keeping me as a backup plan. She wanted me to compete for her affection while she was already giving it to someone else. She wanted to make me feel like I had to earn what she was freely offering to David Peterson. I went home, poured myself a drink, and started making plans. The next morning, Amanda came down for breakfast looking like she'd slept well. She was humming, actually humming, as she made her coffee. Good night? I asked. Really good, she said with a satisfied smile. The girls and I had such a great time. We need to do it more often. I nodded. That's nice. Hey, I've been thinking about what you said, about earning your affection. Her eyes lit up. Oh? Yeah, I think you're right. I have gotten comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. She practically beamed. I'm glad you see it that way. So I've decided to make some changes, I continued, starting with this. I slid a business card across the table to her. She picked it up, confused. James Morrison, private investigator, she read aloud. Then she looked up at me, the color draining from her face. What is this? That's the man I hired to document your affair with David Peterson, I said calmly. He got some great photos last night. Really clear shots of you two at Chez Laurent. The hand-holding, the intimate conversation, the way you kissed him in the parking lot before you both got in his car. Amanda's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. See, you're right about one thing, I continued. I did get comfortable. I got comfortable trusting you. I got comfortable believing that when you said you were going out with girlfriends, you were actually going out with girlfriends. I got comfortable thinking that your marriage vows meant something to you. Marcus, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you've been screwing around with David for the past month while telling me I need to earn your affection? Can you explain why you made me feel like our marriage was my fault while you were busy destroying it yourself? She started crying. Not the genuine tears of someone who was sorry, but the manipulative tears of someone who'd been caught. It's not what you think, she sobbed. David and I, we're just friends. He's going through a divorce, and I was just being supportive. Supporting him with your tongue down his throat? The tears stopped, just like that. And for a second, I saw the real Amanda, the cold, calculating woman who'd been playing games with me for weeks. Fine, she said, her voice hard. So what if I am seeing David? You drove me to it with your pathetic, boring existence. You never make me feel special anymore. You never surprise me or make me feel desired. David makes me feel alive. There it was, the truth she'd been hiding behind all her tests and games. So you decided to cheat instead of, I don't know, talking to me about it like an adult? I decided to see what else was out there, she snapped. And you know what? I found it. David treats me like a queen. He makes me feel beautiful and wanted and appreciated. Everything you stopped doing years ago. I nodded. That's interesting, because according to the investigator's report, David's been telling you the same lines he told his last 3 affair partners. Word for word, actually. Apparently, you're not as special as you think you are. Her face went white again. Oh, and about David's divorce? I continued. That's not happening. He's been married for 15 years and has no intention of leaving his wife. You're just another side piece to him. But I guess that makes you feel alive, right? Amanda slumped in her chair, the fight going out of her. How long have you known? I suspected something was off when you started your little earn my affection routine, but I've known for sure for about a week. A week? She looked confused. Then why didn't you say anything? I smiled. Because I wanted to see how far you'd go, how much you were willing to destroy for your little midlife crisis. And I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed for the divorce. Divorce? Did you think I was going to stay married to someone who cheats on me and then tries to make it my fault? Did you think I was going to compete with David Peterson for my own wife's attention? Amanda started crying again, real tears this time. Marcus, please, we can work this out. It was a mistake. I'll end things with David right now. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Can we? Can we fix the fact that instead of talking to me about problems in our marriage, you decided to cheat? Can we fix the fact that you spent weeks making me feel like I was inadequate while you were screwing another man? Can we fix the fact that you just called my existence pathetic and boring? She was sobbing now. I didn't mean it. I was angry. I was caught. People say things they don't mean when they're cornered. Maybe. But they also tell the truth when they think they're not going to face consequences. And your truth is that you think I'm boring and pathetic, and that David Peterson makes you feel more alive than 10 years of marriage to me ever did. I stood up from the table. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow. I suggest you find a good lawyer. Where are you going? She asked desperately. To work. Some of us still have pathetic, boring jobs to go to. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Not because I made them that way, but because Amanda's affair had created a paper trail that made everything very simple from a legal standpoint. In our state, adultery affects how assets are divided. The cheating spouse typically gets less, especially when they have been deceptive about it. And Amanda had been very deceptive. The private investigator had documented not just her affair, but also her lies about where she was going and what she was doing. She'd used our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms with David. She claimed she was working late when she was actually at his apartment. She'd even used our joint savings account to buy that expensive dress she wore on their dates. Every lie, every deception, every dollar she'd spent on her affair became evidence against her in court. But the real kicker came when David Peterson showed up at our house one evening, 3 weeks after I'd filed for divorce. I answered the door to find a man in his 40s, well-dressed, with the kind of confident smile that probably worked well on lonely wives. You must be Marcus, he said, extending his hand. I'm David. I think we need to talk. I didn't shake his hand. About what? About Amanda. About this whole situation. I think there's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? He shifted uncomfortably. Look, Amanda and I, we care about each other. But she's told me about your marriage, about how unhappy she's been. I think maybe if you just let her go, we can all move forward without making this ugly. I stared at him. You came to my house to ask me to give up my wife so you can have her without the mess of a scandal? I came here to be civilized about this. Amanda deserves to be happy. With a married man who's cheated on his wife with at least 3 other women in the past 2 years? His confident smile faltered. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that I had you investigated too, David. Your wife Sarah might be interested to know about Amanda, and Jennifer before her, and Lisa before Jennifer. Should I go on? David's face was pale now. You can't prove any of that. I pulled out my phone and showed him a folder of photos. Actually, I can. Amazing what a good private investigator can dig up when you pay them enough. He stared at the photos images of him with various women at restaurants, hotels, and compromising positions. His whole player routine documented in high definition. What do you want? He asked quietly. I want you to disappear from Amanda's life. Today. Right now. And I want you to tell her exactly what you told me, that she was just another affair, and that you have no intention of leaving your wife for her. And if I don't, then your wife Sarah gets these photos along with a detailed timeline of your affairs, along with the receipts showing you've been using your company credit card to pay for hotel rooms. I'm sure your employer at Davidson Associates would love to know how you've been spending their money. David was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll talk to Amanda. Good, and David? If I ever see you near my wife again, even after our divorce is final, these photos go public. All of them. Understood? He nodded again and walked back to his car without another word. Amanda came home that night devastated. David had apparently followed my instructions to the letter, telling her that their relationship was just a fling and that he'd never had any intention of leaving his wife. He said I was just another distraction, she cried to me. He said I meant nothing to him. I felt no satisfaction in her pain, just emptiness. I'm sorry, Aunt, I said, and I meant it. Not sorry for exposing David, but sorry that my wife had thrown away our marriage for someone who saw her as disposable. Marcus, please, she begged. I made a terrible mistake. David was just, I don't know what I was thinking, but I know now. I know what I want. I want you. I want us. What you want is to not be alone, I said gently. You want to not face the consequences of your choices. But wanting to avoid the fallout isn't the same as wanting me. That's not true, isn't it? 3 weeks ago, you told me I was pathetic and boring. You said David made you feel alive in ways I never could. Did that change because he dumped you, or because you realized you're about to lose half of everything in the divorce? She couldn't answer that. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. Amanda got 30% of our assets instead of the 50% she would have gotten without the adultery. She also had to pay her own legal fees, which were substantial because her lawyer had to work extra hard to minimize the damage from her affair. The house went to me since I could afford the mortgage payments and she couldn't. Most of our investments stayed with me too. Amanda walked away with her car, her personal belongings, and enough money to get by for a while, but not enough to maintain the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to. 6 months after the divorce was final, I ran into one of Amanda's friends at the grocery store. She told me Amanda had moved into a small apartment across town and was working 2 jobs to make ends meet. David Peterson had apparently moved on to his next conquest, and Amanda was struggling to rebuild her life. She asks about you sometimes, her friend said. I think she regrets what happened. I'm sure she does, I replied, because regret is what happens when you realize the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's what happens when you throw away something real for something fake. It's what happens when you discover that the person you thought was your upgrade was actually using you the same way you were using your spouse. Amanda had wanted me to earn her affection while she was giving it away to someone else. She'd wanted to keep me as a backup plan while she explored her options. She'd wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Instead, she'd lost everything. I'm not proud of how it all ended. There's no joy in watching someone you once loved destroy their life with poor choices. But I'm also not sorry I protected myself from being dragged down with her. The woman who told me I needed to earn her affection learned that affection, respect, and love can't be demanded or manipulated. They're given freely or not at all. And the man she thought was too boring and pathetic to fight for her turned out to be smart enough to document her betrayal and strong enough to walk away when she revealed who she really was. A year later, I'm in a much better place. I bought a smaller house in a better neighborhood. Started dating again, carefully but optimistically. focused on rebuilding my life without the constant stress of wondering when the next test was coming or what I'd have to prove next. I learned something important from that whole experience. When someone tells you that you have to earn their love, they're telling you they don't actually love you. Because real love isn't conditional on performance, or tests or competitions. Real love is given freely, without games or ultimatums, or the threat that it might be withdrawn if you don't meet someone's arbitrary standards. Amanda taught me that lesson the hard way. But it was a lesson worth learning. The last I heard, she was still working those 2 jobs and living in that small apartment. Still single, still struggling to understand why her life had fallen apart so completely. I could have told her, but she probably wouldn't have listened. Some people only learn the hard way that when you treat love like a game, you usually end up losing everything that actually mattered. Thanks for sticking with this story to the end. If you're dealing with someone who's making you jump through hoops for their affection, remember this. You shouldn't have to audition for a role you've already been cast in. Hit that follow button if you want more stories about people who played games and lost everything. Next week, I'm sharing the story of a woman whose husband told her she was too comfortable in their marriage and how she made him realize exactly what comfortable really meant. See you in the comments, and remember, the moment someone makes you compete for what should be freely given is the moment you've already lost them. The question is whether you're smart enough to realize it.